BBC News, hello, I'm Gareth Barlow. South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol has said this week's summit of NATO leaders is a chance to clearly demonstrate strong international resolve to deter North Korea's nuclear ambitions. Mr. Yoon says he'll be asking NATO countries to consider how to manage the threat posed by the North's growing arsenal of nuclear weapons. Ben Lowings reports.
South Korea's presence at NATO talks in Lithuania is an attempt to organise a new response to North Korea's nuclear and missile programmes. The latest apparent threat from Pyongyang comes from the Defence Ministry. It appears to refer to the deployment of an American nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine to South Korea last month. This, it says, has led to a situation that brings nuclear conflict closer to reality.
Mexico's Navy is taking over the running of the country's main international airport as part of a drive by President Andrés Manuel López Obrador to tackle corruption and drug trafficking. It's expected that at least 6 more of Mexico's airports will be taken over by the armed forces in the coming year. Kat Wiener reports.
The Navy has been running security at Benito Juárez International Airport in Mexico City for over a year, but will now manage the entire operation. The capital's other airport, the recently built Felipe Ángeles, has already been run by the National Guard since February 2022. Mr. López Obrador has vastly expanded the role of the military within Mexico's transport infrastructure. Critics accuse him of blurring the line between military and civilian life, but the president says such measures are crucial to disrupt organised crime and illegal migration.
A UN delegation has arrived in Honduras to look at ways of setting up an international anti-corruption mission. They've been invited by the left-wing president Xiomara Castro. Leonardo Rocha reports.
Ms. Castro has promised to tackle endemic corruption and inequality in Honduras, where more than 2/3 of the population live below the poverty line. The move is backed by the United States, which estimates that Honduras loses $3 billion a year through corruption. Ms. Castro's government says that once established, the international group will have autonomy to act in the country without interference. A similar mission operated until 2020, when its members were expelled by the president at the time, Juan Orlando Hernández. He has since been arrested and extradited to the US for alleged drug trafficking and money laundering offences.
A woman has died in southwestern Japan and 3 people are missing following landslides triggered by what the authorities describe as the region's heaviest rain ever. The country's meteorological agency has issued emergency warnings in the Fukuoka prefecture, where more than 4,000 people are being advised to leave their homes. Torrential rain over the past 2 days has brought flooding to large parts of the region. You're listening to the World News from the BBC. The Philippines Coast Guard says it will step up patrols in the South China Sea with support from the country's naval forces. Its comments come after officials from the armed forces of the Philippines said on Friday that nearly 50 Chinese ships that it described as a maritime militia had recently been detected in the disputed waters. The authorities in Peru say they have rescued a group of Afghan migrants from people traffickers at a location near the Brazilian border. The Peruvian Attorney General's office said the 23 Afghan nationals had paid smugglers to be taken to Ecuador. The migrants had 4 children among them, including a 2-month-old baby. The BBC has suspended a male presenter after newspaper allegations that he paid a teenager about $45,000 for sexually explicit images. It's also contacted the police about the accusations and is due to meet with detectives in the next 24 hours. In a statement, the BBC said it was working as quickly as possible to establish the facts in what it called a complex and fast-moving set of circumstances. And scientists in Britain are hopeful they may have found a way of detecting a deadly parasite that has devastated honeybee populations around the world. The tiny varroa mite are a mere millimetre long. Nikki Cardwell explains.
Varroa mites are native to Asia, but over the past 50 years have spread to hives around the world. If an outbreak is detected early, it can be controlled or eradicated. Beekeepers have to check hives manually, which is time-consuming and stressful for the bees. Now a team from Nottingham University believe they may have found a way of detecting the mites by listening for their distinctive walk. The vibrations caused by their stride pattern can be picked out from the sounds of the bees. The hope is the discovery will lead to the development of a remote detection system, which will be able to alert beekeepers if their colonies become infested.
BBC News.